That's Mike.
That's Toya, and this is Tech Beats and Bytes. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm willing to say that if we had somebody rapping, our theme song would be able to go head to head with like Power and other stuff. We just need somebody on our theme song.
Right. Drop a quick verse.
How you been?
Good. How you be?
Man, elections, new campaigns, tired. Cut a mohawk in. I'm tired, man. Yeah. Well, that's just natural. I always look sleepy, but you know. How y'all doing? So everybody out there, welcome. We are glad to have you. We have a special guest today, but before we get into the special guest, Donald Trump in his interview with Axios, did you get a chance to watch that?
I didn't see the whole thing. I saw the clips. You know, they pull out the good for the news. So I saw when he was like, "It is what it is." I saw that part.
Look, so I've just determined this man just don't care, and I'm wondering why teams to even get them little down. No, I just want to know why they thought it was going to be a good idea.
Yeah, you was breaking up for me, but I think you were talking about what was a good idea.
Yeah, I was just wondering why they thought that Donald Trump reading something was going to be a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. It never goes too well, and it's like a sinking ship. It just looks so crazy because November's here. August came real quick.
Right.
November is like here, and it's just you just looking and you're like, what is happening right now? What am I witnessing? What's really going on? It's a lot.
So I'm just expecting him to fail, but hopefully Biden just doesn't say too much of the wrong thing, and we're able to figure this out and just get him out.
Because Biden not looking too great either. He's had some flubs, and
but you know what?
Man,
I'd rather have a car that's at least running in a broken down piece of trash that's set on fire.
No, agreed. But we're not talking about our boat. We're talking about the other boats. I could definitely put somebody back in office.
They're not gonna get it either way.
Oh, so crazy.
So we got some stuff to talk about with different kind of politics, but I just want to make sure everybody knows early voting is open in Miami-Dade County. Early voting is open in a lot of places. Elections are August 18th. Get out and vote. Early voting is a much safer way if you don't want to be around a lot of people. Just go in there. It's very quick, very efficient. In Dade County, you have 27 polling locations that are open. In early voting, you do not have to vote at your district or your precinct. You can go wherever you want to go in early voting. It's only the day of that you have to be in your precinct. So get in there. Make sure you vote, especially in Miami-Dade. Y'all have only had 3 state attorneys in the existence of that position. It's to end the regime, get Melba Pearson into office, make a change.
No, completely agree. We early vote all the time, and it's a super easy process. You don't have the lines, you don't have the people.
Right.
And it just makes it so much easier. And to your point, you can go wherever. So if you are literally going from the store to your house, you may pass a precinct where you could just hop in real quick and vote and then keep it moving. It's so much easier. So take advantage of the time. Absolutely.
Right. And make good use of your time. So we have political views. We didn't get a chance to run down the ballot. I believe maybe that's something we need to get Dwight on. Maybe next week, because November's big, but there's a lot of open primaries that will actually fill positions. So we probably need to get Dwight back on next week and go through that. But guys, make sure you get out there and vote. It's very important, very important. So let's go ahead and bring out our guest, Edwin.
Yes.
Mr. Muhammad, how are you doing?
I am doing great. I am doing excellent. And how are you guys doing?
Good.
We're alive. Toya about to be rich, so we can go work for her. So she's gonna make She's gonna make a little spongy brush for men and stuff. So we're gonna use that, whatever we got to do to just work for cosmology. So as soon as she get that $1 billion Madam CJ Walker status, we all gonna quit and just go work for her.
You got that right. Let me know. Get me that text as soon as possible because I'm gonna be right on that.
We need the squad. We need the squad. So that's what's up.
So Edwin, we know you. We know the things you do, but the community may not know you. Some of our viewers may not know you. So give us the 2-minute pitch of what this amazing Miami creative, what it is that you do.
Let's see if I can get this here squeezed down in 2 minutes. All right. Well, basically, I'm originally from Miami. I am an artist by nature, draw, paint, sculpt, and then some. Graffiti artist, dancer, just an all-around creative. You know, I've just been blessed with a different perspective and skill set. And I learned a long time ago that, and it was from one of my mentors, and he told me, he said, you know what, one of the best ways to handle a gift that's been given to you in such magnitude is to give it back. And so for me, it's been always a passion of mine to find a means and a way to try to do that same thing and pretty much give back a lot of what I've been blessed with. And so my pathway has always been, it's been pretty unique, you know, but I'm not going to go into so much of that. However, I would mention that coming up in Miami and the, you know, going to, you know, in the hood, I actually went to, you know, Northwestern, and I was in there for the special arts program. And I was around a lot of creatives at the same time, around a lot of my people, love my people, you know, on many different levels. And so I got a chance to experience, you know, different things. I mean, in my background, you know, I'm actually first generation born Haitian. And so a lot of cultural experiences, a lot of different societal experiences, a lot of creative experiences. And in my journeys, I found that I'm around a lot of people who have been, a lot of my peers, I should say, not even just people, but a lot of my peers and friends who have gone through a lot of different things and given up on their skills and talents. They didn't have opportunities. Really, some of the best people I've ever seen do any type of art, and even running in the, you know, the streets and doing graffiti, you know, in the warehouses. More, you know, this is way before Wynwood is being glamorized and graffiti is glamorized and it's and accepted all over the place. This is when we had to go into underground warehouses that was pretty much falling apart and then being chased away by police. But you see some of the best artwork in there. And so
that's the funny thing. I don't mean to cut you off, but that's one of the words we've been talking about. Ghetto and hood only stands for creativity that hasn't been stolen or popularized.
Just
think about that.
I like that. Very, very interesting. That's a good point. And so I've seen so much creativity go to waste by not being exposed, but not at the same time, a lack of opportunity. So these things kind of built up something inside of me to just try to kick down a doorway and a pathway. And when I got to a certain point, this is one of my goals, that when I got to a certain point, I want to create a pathway to help creatives, help people find a means and a way to be able to kind of exercise their creativity and find a pathway to do what they enjoy doing. So in that, fast forward, I get to, I launched my own business at 14, kept things going, and been expanding and developing it from that point. I was in high school running the business, doing art, doing a sport, playing a sport, and then some. And so multitasking has just been a part of me. And fast forward years later, I ended up deciding to develop a magazine. A friend of mine who was in the modeling industry that I went to high school with, and I looked at how things were happening in that sense. And what that did is inspired me to try to come up with a different means and a way to bring a solution. And I came up with developed a magazine that was called Fashion. And that embarked me into the fashion and entertainment industry. And fast forward, we developed a lot in that aspect. We that pushed me into a certain position here on South Beach. Also established me out in New York and out in LA a little bit. We did some things out in Atlanta, and it positioned me to really just kind of actually exercise my creativity in a different way. So now my creativity went from a lot more doing artwork to now a lot more creating experiences. And with that, that allowed me to just kind of engage with people more, learn more about people's behavior. So I got a lot more into the marketing aspect, working with different brands while we were doing a lot of fashion shows, a lot of events, pop-up events, private events for different companies and so forth. That actually created a lot of opportunity and opened up a lot of doorways. I learned a lot while transitioning and going through this phase and going through being a socialite, having the popularity and so forth, and seeing and being around celebrities and seeing all these different things and being in the biggest circles, from top tier celebrities to different entertainers to different business owners to different individuals who are extremely rich and uber rich. But it never swayed me and took me off the course of my path. And so I kind of made sure that I stay focused, because I had a goal in mind that was bigger and beyond all of those things. So the intention didn't get to my head. That just kind of helped me to just kind of identify people. I always stayed on the street level. One thing I didn't mention is that I've been doing community work, working in our community, doing a lot of mentoring, going door to door, helping, the needy and so forth. All of that from at 17 years old, and nonstop, and even to this day, continuing that. So these things help put perspective in me. So I didn't get swayed away by the industry. I learned about the industry. I learned what, the valuable parts of that. I learned what to stay away from and how to handle temptation. And so I was able to navigate that, did a lot on the beach, South Beach, heavily. We did many different events, working with a lot of brands and hotels and so forth, which allowed me the opportunity to experience corporate business on a different level.
I think that's one of the key points that you just made, because if you look at it, one of the things, like two things I can think of, you're kind of reflective of myself and Dante. You're another version of Medium 4 as far as doing media, design, creative, and the work you do. But yet we're still friends and we collaborate and we work together, just to show people we are working together, even if we do the exact same thing.
Right.
Another thing to give credit to that was you actually taught us some of the elements of how to film and do work when you were initially doing the stuff at Black Tech Week. And we saw your setup. We was like, whoa, this look a lot better than our setup. We need to step our game up. So I think, just like you said, the nature of giving and what you want to do and the things you like to do in the community as a parent, because I know you've instilled that with us, with our company. So I just wanted to give you a shout out for that.
I appreciate it. Never knew that.
And so one of the programs and everything you have with your experience, and I wish people could see what I'm looking at. Two things that pop out as me is Brainwash Media, dope name, dope logo.
Appreciate that.
You respect brand integrity, and you have that. But you also have a different integrity where you do high-end stuff, but you always seem to try to stay grounded to the streets and helping people in the community. What have you seen as either your success or your challenges of trying to balance that? Because I know sometimes when you got to push it to the next level, money and ego can become an issue, but you've always seemed to be very grounded within the community and within yourself.
Yeah. That's a good question. One of the things is that in my experiences, specifically in my experiences on the beach, I've found multi-millionaires, from our community and beyond. I've been around, I did a series of events for the Versace Mansion, and we used to run some of the programming out of there. This is when it was really private. This is when nobody can actually get in there. And I would be around some of these, a lot of these white folks, and even some of our other people. And they're extremely rich, but they're not happy. It's not coming from a real place. And then I would see certain other people, and I'd be in other environments, and the next day or maybe even that evening, then I'd be out at another event that may be quote unquote hood. And it can be with a number of people who don't necessarily have anything. On the weekend, I go and I'm doing now community work, and I'm seeing people who have nothing but extremely happy.
So you were cocaine and pain versus Hennessy and smiles.
Yeah. And so I like that. And so what put perspective for me is that it ain't got nothing to do with money.
Mm-hmm.
It's something about your perspective on life and how do you really find something that really fulfills you. And that's what drove me to keep on the right path, because I've been offered a number of different opportunities to where I could have made hundreds of millions of dollars, but I chose not to go that route because it went against my values. And I had to make sure that I continue to reinforce my value while I'm in this and while I'm dealing with all these things. So that way it does not deter me. And so I constantly remind myself, I constantly look, and I constantly stay connected to the streets. And so when it comes down to, keeping that perspective, it's always been for me, the fact of, okay, what true happiness comes from? It doesn't come from having a fat bank account. It comes from truly aligning your life with your, and having a value system and doing things that you enjoy on your terms. And so that kind of just, kept me focused to continue pushing on and pushing through. So when the temptation came there, I've been offered, I know for one of the projects that we had, a model, for a modeling project that we launched. And I got offered $2 million, of investment from, from an individual who wanted to be a part of that. But it just wasn't the right fit. His vibe and his goals and objective just wasn't the right fit. So
Everything
I said,
work out, yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I could have went into bed with that whole situation, but then that would have been a bigger situation and a problem later on. And
so what do you think is the shorter of your humbleness to not expose these things? Because you have stories. You got stories for days, and some of the stuff you're telling me is the first time I'm hearing it. Is it? Do you not tell the stories because something you just don't want to be attached to, or is it just not a focus? Because unfortunately, we know people. They like resumes. They like the bios. They like to know what you've been affiliated with, and you keep those things rather private. Is there a particular reason why you and there's no wrong answer, but I like people to understand the conversations me and you have online. Is there a reason why you strategically move that way?
You know what? It is a reason. There is a reason for that, and it is not to hide anything. It's really, I'm careful about who I bring around my circle. I'm careful about what information I share at the right time. One thing that I've learned that over time is that you can share a lot of information with people, but they may not be ready for it. And information or knowledge before it's time can become a burden. And sometimes I stay quiet on a lot of different things for a reason, because I know that the temperature is not right. And I stay connected to the streets a lot. I stay connected to the industry a lot. I stay connected to people on different levels a lot and getting a feel as to what things are. Now, more specifically with myself, I am a private person, but I'm also, an extrovert, and I love being around people. I'm a socialite, but I'm careful about who I bring in, because I've been used, I've been taken advantage of, and I caught it, and before it become a detrimental situation. And I've been really, really reluctant on sharing certain things until the right time.
So hold on real quick. Your story reminds me of somebody that has a historic family name, and you want one of the primary foundations of Dade County. So Toya, when you hear this, how does that relate to you? Because it's not like you ever brag about the history of your grandfather and the things that your family's done. You just work. So how does that story relate to you? And I ask because I'm thinking of the difference between others, let me put it that way, others that would do nothing but ride on their family name to get everything they got. And both of you guys are kind of the opposite. So Toya, how does that relate to you and how you move and just the similarity of that story?
No, I totally relate. And I think it just more so speaks to the way that we move, right? It's about the work. It's about what we're doing. It's about the progress and the actual fruit of their labor, right? So me just being like, yeah, my great granddaddy did this and oh, he did that. Okay, great. What does that have to do with today? And how it's showing up right now? And for me, it's about legacy building, right? So that means that I have to actively do something to build upon the foundation that I was born into. So it's not so much about resting on laurels, it's about showing up And then, like he said, what are my gifts? How do I share my experience? How do I share what I do with the world? And how does that show up? How do I want to present myself? And then what do I want to leave behind? So I totally identify with that. And one of the things that I wanted to ask, because you hit on one of the key things that I was intrigued about becoming an entrepreneur. I didn't set out to be like, yeah, I want to own a business when I was young. No, I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. And then when I got into corporate, I was like, oh, wait, I don't know. This is my jam.
This ain't it.
Right, let me rethink this a little bit. And then that's when I really kind of tap into, to Mike, to your point, on like my great grandfather's history, because that's when I learned that he was a serial entrepreneur in the 1800s, at a time when Black people, we were trying to do just survive, right? He did real estate. He had a general store. He had a horse and buggy business. Like, he was doing a little bit of everything. So I wanted to kind of ask you about that, because you started kind of young. Did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or you just kind of just continue to roll with the punches? And then what were some of the hard knocks that you learned along the way? Because for me, my corporate experience helped to like give me some ends and to know how to move and to do some different things. Coming in it raw, that would be like a whole other experience, because you're truly learning along the way.
Yeah. Well, I did start young, and it wasn't a thought of mine about entrepreneurship. I know my parents had their own business, and I didn't think nothing of it. I was like around 11, 12 years old. I just wanted to do something. So I don't know where from, but it was a drive in me that just wanted to just kind of just do something. And so my father had an auto body business, and I would go there and I would ask, and I would even ask some other friends that was nearby that had a car. Just asked to see if I could just do some work. I'm like, can I just do some work for you guys? Can I just work in? And then they kept telling me, no, they're like, you're too young. And I'm like, okay, I didn't understand that. And I'm like, well, I mean, I want to do something. And they kept telling me, you're too young. I kept going back. They kept telling me, you're too young. By the time I got to 14, I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and do my own thing. And so I went, and I remember going by, and this is over in Liberty City at the Carver Center, right off 62nd Street and actually 61st Street and 7th Avenue. There was this guy doing some airbrushing out there. And I already knew how to skill. Me and my brother was actually drawing on our shirts and doing characters. We was always drawing and doing different things. And so
You were doing the Bart Simpson pants back in the day?
What's that?
You were doing the Bart Simpson pants back in the day?
Oh, we did a lot of those. Yeah, indeed.
Well, the things sold for $250 at my school in middle school. I was selling them things for $1.25 a pop.
Wow. Yeah, I went ahead and I had this guy say, listen, can you teach me how to airbrush? And so he was like, you know what? Okay, I'll teach you. And so he showed me, he said, I'll come back tomorrow. I went back that next day. He showed me how the device worked, and I made a couple of lines. Then he said, come back tomorrow again. I came back the next day and he wasn't there. I went back again the next day and he wasn't there. He was gone. And I'm like, well, damn. Okay, well, let me just go ahead and see what I can, what I can do. So I went ahead and worked on trying to invest in getting my own equipment. Eventually did that and worked with my brothers, and then opened up. No, actually, we worked on a shop, for ourselves, but we actually worked with someone else in their shop, and we were doing t-shirts. And then we continued to grow from that point. Then we went from that location up a shop over at the USA Flea Market, and then continued to grow from there. And then I, over the years, just expanded that and opened up 2 other shops. I was at the 163rd Street Mall, had a shop out there, and so it was just a matter of me just, having fun and exploring my creativity. And it wasn't like entrepreneurship. I want to be on this level, but I always had this drive in me, and I just kept wanting to go to the next level, kept going to the next level. So from there, from the t-shirt airbrushing business, that went into a lot of designing, and then we opened up a graphic design studio, opened up a warehouse, started doing printed t-shirts and doing designs for a number of different artists locally. And then we also did a lot of the In fact, we did the Wu-Tang t-shirts. When you watch that ice cream video, I never forget, it was a crazy thing because we had to work around the clock. And that ice cream video with the t-shirt that had the Wu-Tang symbol logos all on them, and then also the Jizza logo that was just introduced, we printed all those shirts.
Wow.
And
History.
I know, right?
Yeah, actually that is about that, but I didn't know what we were doing. I'm like, yo, let's just ride, let's do it. I'm a fan, let's make it happen.
Right.
And so from that, just kept growing, and then doing more and more stuff where I did some work for the city, did some paintings with the city, the Orange Bowl Committee, and did quite a bit of buildings, and painted actually hand painted quite a bit of buildings. I did 6 buildings. I did 6 buildings throughout Miami. And then I learned from that okay, you can't stay at the skill level, because this is right before the digital era kicked in heavy. And when I was out there painting, I'm on a swing stage on the side of a building that's around maybe 10, 12, 15 stories, and I'm painting a huge mural on the side of it. But I seen technology coming around the corner, and it was like, okay, they starting to print these things, and I'm like, okay, I gotta upgrade my skill level, because if I stay here, I'm gonna be put out of business. I need to go ahead and now switch up. So I got away from doing that, went more into that, into designing, graphic designing, and continued from that point. And then that's where I went into the designing, and then launching the magazine, and then going from there. So it's just been a trajectory of just moving things to the next level, constantly moving things to the next level, and exploring creativity.
And that's why it is, literally.
One of the things I love about doing this show, Toya, is finding out about our friends, because sometimes they just doing stuff on a whole nother level of dopeness that we don't always get to see. And like, now I'm just mad I don't have one of them ice cream shirts. Like,
I need me a what? A butter pecan or French vanilla, maybe.
Right, like that would have been dope. So you have this unique skill, and I hope people understand the way we've kind of started to format our show is after somebody I admire and Toya's met, which is DJ EFN and Nori. And what I realized, the conversations of the tech, the bytes, and everything else, it'll come up as it comes up. But there's so many people to highlight, and there's so much for everybody to learn. Because I don't know, the news is just boring right now. The news is horrible.
Same thing every day.
Right, it's the same shit. And it's about 30 other people, y'all covering the news. And shout out to StarX and Jill. Y'all want to know about the news? Check them out at 9 o'clock in the morning. Fresh Squeeze got that on lock. High Low got that on lock. Hold on, Dante, mute him if you can. Keep that mute going on Ed. But if you really want to pay attention to it, there's a shift of money right now, right? And with this power shift of money, we've had the conversations about, some of it seems to be coming from guilt, some of it seems to be coming from unforeseen or unknown awareness, which when you're Black, it's like, how could you not have seen what we've been going through? But when I have the conversations, I realize they are, especially a particular group of people in Dade County, just seem to be totally oblivious to the fact that the Duffy riots put them where they're at now. Like, Black people been fighting for y'all. So it's hard for me to register that this only happened in the 80s, and they just don't seem to know, oh, we just came out of, people, if you haven't done your history, and if you're an import here, implant, and I think Toya and Edwin, you guys can speak to this even better. Miami was not always a majority Hispanic county. And you got to know the difference, that this county was very Black and white and very rich and poor, and Black people weren't just chilling on South Beach. And I think sometimes we take some of the history for granted of what people understand. And that's why I made the point earlier, like, there's only been three state attorneys in Dade County. So you got to think, that kind of sounds like a kingdom of running shit. So if you have a whole county, in theory, and people say this county changed and it exploded off of cocaine money and everything else, but if in the last 27 years, only one person was controlling that, and if you think about the control of power,
right,
a lot of things has been missed historically. So before we get into the We Got Change for $1 and that program you have, I want to know from both of you all, how do you see that the fact of the old guard of politics and everything else of how money is moving and policies are moving. Now that people are kind of paying attention to politics and paying attention to police brutality and everything else, being native Miamians, what do you guys see as the change that might happen in the next 10 years, the next 20 years?
No, so I think definitely 2020 for real is the year of like clarity and vision, right? So it's changing how we see things, it's changing how the world sees us. And just not even Miami-Dade, but just looking at across the board, right? So there was an incident that just happened recently in Aurora, in Colorado, where the police pulled over a family, a black family. They were just getting their nails done, and they had like a 6-year-old girl on the pavement in handcuffs. Like these things have been happening. It's not new. Just like you said, the McDuffie riots in Miami, not new, right? Virginia Key Beach, not new. The fact that that's where black people went because we couldn't go to South Beach, right? The fact that Muhammad Ali was at the Hampton House because he would fight on the beach and then have to go over there and say, look, this is nothing new. And it's the fact that I think that right now, because we talked about it before, people are at home, some people are not working. So we have people's attention. And this is the time to share these stories and to continue to enforce what we can do and how we can evolve and change, because now people are paying attention. People are online, they're looking for content, people are exploring different things, they're creating. 2020 has been a hard year, but it's also been a very pivotal year. And we can come out of this in a whole different way. And just seeing how Miami-Dade, to your point, is changing. There's a lot of focus, people are holding people accountable. It's not so easy to just have an article come out in a headline. It's like, how can you show and prove? What are your receipts? You're not just going for it anymore. You have to show up and you have to put in long lasting changes to ensure that we're not trying to go back to what it was. How do we move forward and make it last?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. 2020 is definitely a trial, and I appreciate 2020 because 2020 actually is like an X-lax, and it's clearing us out of a lot of backed up mess. We have a situation where people are compacted and concentrated in at home, forced to, can't go anywhere. And you're forced to just now absorb the information that either is given to you on TV or that you can find on the internet. Till this day, people are not, people can't go to the bars. They can't go to the club. You can't go and find entertainment. You're focused in one particular area of getting information. And so people are hypersensitive right now. And when it comes down to a situation where now you have, this situation like with what happened to George Floyd. It's nothing new. It's been happening. Situations have been happening. Situations have been happening here in Miami, and caught on camera and shown. However, that was a real strategic pivotal point because people couldn't go anywhere and couldn't ignore it. And people was already frustrated and emotional, and that was just like the perfect storm to respond. And now we have a situation, and then coming to the point where you was asking regarding to Miami and how things are changing and the economic status, and also that happening nationwide. Right now, you can't hide anymore. There's no more hiding on what your values are. 2020 kind of set the scenario where you can't hide where your values are. You can't ignore the situation anymore because everything is out in the forefront. I mean, from politics to social, the social construct of things have been brought to the light. When you have somebody like we have President Trump in the office, and he's doing what he wants to do outright, and you have these politicians who've been doing the same thing that he's been doing, and even worse, who's been in office for the last 15, 20 years. And it's just been so much things that have been compounded that now we have no choice but to react and respond and show what your value systems actually are. Economically, things are good and bad. In the city of Miami, economically, things are good and bad. Money's flowing, but money's not as available as it used to be. Money has been, being, pocketed by politicians, and when I say that, in some cases, going to their pockets. But for the most, what really is happening is you have a lot of resources being shifted, and resources that's allocated for one community being actually taken and being put into another community and other projects. And so many different things have been happening. It's a matter of what you're going to do about it now. Those of us who have been victimized by it, those of us who have been seeing it from a distance, those of us who are the beneficiaries of it. What are you going to do about it? Because as it stands right now, and as we seen a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, people are sick and tired of how things have been going, and they're damn sure not going to allow it to continue to go the way it is. And so we see the first wave of something. And
before you go there, one of the things that because I wanted in the last 15 minutes kind of talking about your program and giving myself and Toya to ask you some questions, but one of the things is the difference of like what I see in Toya, I see in you. Toya is more so the person, see a problem, build a company to solve the problem or find a solution for the problem. My personal stripes right now are people that consistently, or even in some of these people are in the forefront, consistently talk about the problem, but when it's time to show up to actually do the hard work. And a lot of people think when you on the streets, when you protest and when you do other stuff, that's the hard work. The hard work is sitting down and writing that 14-page proposal and coming up with strategic development and KPIs and metrics and measurable goals of what it's actually going to take. The hard part is 13 days of straight conversations just to get something approved and bringing people together to get them to work on the same page. And you get to a point where you can only bring in 3 people. Like 60 people say they want to get down, but 50 of them don't have time because they got something going. It's a good idea and they just want to attach their name to it. And the work to me seems to keep coming back on the same people. I don't understand how we have so much talent, but so little collaboration when it comes to fixing these problems.
Last thing
that look like, nigga, you don't know Miami.
No, you know. That's why you asked the question.
But you know what? It boils down to this: people like to talk. Everybody can talk. Everybody can identify and talk about the problems. Like we have the whole news system on TV. It's a bunch of talking heads, and they're talking around issues. They don't even have real opinions, and practical steps. And the bottom line is, it's one thing to know what to do, and it's a whole nother thing to do what you know. And people want to always find the easy route, and yet they want to complain. And so it's easy to talk about the problem and complain about the problem. It's more challenging to actually create a solution for the problem or be the solution for the problem. Mm-hmm. And it's just a reality that people are just lazy. They're lazy and they'd rather point the finger and find someone else to blame. But when you become responsible in life, and responsible in that word is having the ability to respond to a particular thing in a situation. When you are able to respond properly, you now see things differently. Your perspective is different. My perspective is different. It's always been different anyway as an artist. But beyond that, I had been nurtured in doing a lot of community work. And so my value system has been structured, and I have a base that's not normal. But my passion for change is not too different from anybody else, because at the end of the day, I'm sick and tired of seeing what's been happening, and the only way to change it is by.
I'll stop you there. I don't agree with that. A reason why I don't agree, I think your passion for change is different because you got a pitch deck that includes a 10-year plan of rebuilding. And I think sometimes people don't understand the difference between a short-term focus and a long-term focus. And it requires a different kind of dreamer. And I remember one of the things I told Toya and Dante probably last year, we can't keep sharing our dreams with everybody because there's too many people that's just going to tear those dreams down. And so when I can look at somebody that has a pitch deck, and it's funny because the last pitch deck we just sent in was a 10-year plan. And most of the asks now are 4-year, 10-year plans. You can talk me back. And even when people try to talk me down, the response is normally, that's cool, but if I don't do this part, the overall vision fails. So if you're not going to pay me to do it, if you're not going to hire me to do it, I just want to know, who do you get in to fill in the rest of the blanks? So I think it's the difference of challenging people that's fine. You can pilot it or you can try to limit me, but if you don't give me the money so Toya can take care of this part for me, just who's going to do what Toya was going to do? And I think that's how people have to, let's reframe our train of thought and our questioning. Take what you can. You know, we all understand the hustle. Take what you can to do what you can with. But when people say they want to fix a problem, and if we show you a full plan and they're like, oh, we'll take that piece, you know, or we'll take that over there. You know, that's like trying to cook the greens without all the ingredients. You ain't even got the vinegar, bro. Like, what is you doing? So I think some people just don't understand that. And Toya, I know you've seen some of these things develop, and you sit on different committees, different groups, and you work with digital grads to have your own company. Here in Edwin talk, what are you thinking? And you think of the structure of how we should actually be bringing this together of this long-term vision? Because he's definitely talking about a platform of economic empowerment, which we'll get into when we start closing it up.
Into that. But no, to your point, right now we need for real solutions. We don't just need hoo rah rah. Like, no, what's step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and what is the measurable outcome we want to see at the end? And that's a level of strategic thinking and planning that a lot of people just aren't used to, right? Some people are just used to the quick hustle, the quick flip. Mm-hmm. And quick flips don't last long. You need for real plans, and plans take time. And if you don't take the time to invest to develop them properly, then it's not necessarily going to go anywhere. And again, going back to a point that was talked about earlier, is making sure that you have the right partners. Everybody is not going to go along with you for the ride and don't have the same vision that you do. So you have
to show up for the end, though, but they ain't going for the ride.
Right, but that's where you have to be real selective, and it comes with time to be able to discern who to bring along for the ride and who not to bring along for the ride. So a lot of it comes down to experience and knowing how to build those teams and to be able to bring it to life. So yeah, no, and I definitely think we don't want to run out of time to hear about the program, because just for me as a brand, when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's pretty dope. Yeah. How can we empower this as a consumer brand? So let's dive into it.
So everyone has We Got Change for $1 and the multiple things, but it's a strategic campaign and an economic action plan. So there's 2 things I initially see with that. An economic plan. And I want a lot of people to understand, for Black America, your freedom will come with economic empowerment, because money is power, and the money can change the things that are holding us back. And if you think you know politics, but you don't know lobbyists, you already don't know politics. If you think you know politics and you don't know who's funding politics, you don't know politics. There's a difference between the old school politics that we were taught in school versus becoming an adult and realizing who's pay to play versus who's really about their people, but who's about their people because they're attached to these platforms. There's so much more to it, but economic empowerment changes everything, because as we said, this George Floyd thing only became so big because we started threatening people's pockets. And when their pockets got threatened, it's like, oh, you don't care about Black people, we're not going to spend money. They start realizing when Black people don't spend money, it's not just us that don't spend money, it's the people we affect because they follow our trends. So when we stop spending, it ain't cool no more, and then they stop spending. When they stop spending, then you have a problem. So you got to understand that power of what's only in Miami-Dade County, 20% of the population, in the nation, 13.7% of the population.
So they say.
Right, so they say. So Black people, we got to know the power of our influence, but you created We Got Change for $1. And I love the economic solution, so I'm going to read this for people real quick. Your campaign is a strategic campaign to inspire, educate, and direct people on using their collective economic power to enforce change within their own community, as well as those whom they spend their money with. The empowerment program itself is a systematic program designed to improve underserved communities by creating an economic ecosystem. The program uses donated funds and revenue generated by its projects to empower the people and businesses in that community versus local programs. Now, the funny thing is, me and you talked about it. We all have almost the exact same ideas, similar, different focus. Mine's with Digital Grass, the Miami Tech Justice Fund, where we're looking to raise $17.5 million, because our goal is raise the money to fund people like you to execute it, because you have to treat this like the Pentagon. You can't put all your money into the Army. You need the Army, you need the Armed Forces, you need the Reserve, you need the Navy, you need the Marines, you need everybody. You need everybody to make things like this work. So tell us, what is the immediate scope of what you're trying to accomplish with We Got Change for $1? And then I'll go back and read your 10-year scope that you put together.
Okay.
And also remember, we have very educated people on here, but some people just don't understand this stuff. So keep it in layman's terms, not just your marketing term. Got you.
Well, at the end of the day, it's one thing to be on the streets making a statement, but everybody can't be on the streets, and we can't be on the streets forever. So it's important to be able to translate that message and keep your voice heard. We got to fight with what's, one of our greatest strengths. And the unique dichotomy here is that one of our greatest weaknesses is our greatest strength. We're a consumer culture. And since we've been a consumer culture, now we've been spending so much money. We're spending 1.3 right about now, going up to 1.5 and climbing on $2 trillion a year. And corporate America is, thriving off of that. And beyond that, our cultural influence drives the economy of this country and the rest of the world. So similar to what you said. So now, We Got Change for $1 is a clear, actionable step on what to do next, from protesting on the streets to now making your voice heard, and at the same time translating that into practical steps that makes change within the community. And how it does that is simply by learning and getting people to understand, how do you use your economic dollars? How do you spend your dollars to actually make change? And it's by a simple decision. Economic protest is nothing new. It's been going on for quite some time, many years. As a matter of fact, we just seen it happen, actually it's still happening with Facebook right now, where many of these companies have pulled out, and Facebook is hurting and trying to figure out a solution to keep them in their
advertisement. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so when you are spending money with somebody, that's actually you speaking, and that's your voice. There's something that's called your economic voice, your dollar vote, your dollar voice. It's mentioned in there's several different terms for it. But at the ending of the day, when you do speak financially without saying a word out of your mouth, you have power. And we have that. We tremendously have power because we spend on everything they target us for that spending. They, companies, Procter & Gamble spend over $500 million a year targeting specifically our community in order to get us to spend with them. AT&T, Unilever, the list goes on and on. I need to go to the stats right now, but the fact of the matter is, anything profiting off of us at our expense, corporate America has a responsibility to us. And at the ending of the day, we have to learn that they do have a responsibility. The campaign teaches on that responsibility. The campaign pushes accountability. Accountability in two ways. Accountability, number one, we have to take accountability on ourselves on how we spend and who we spend with. And we need to spend with those who support us. And number two, we need to hold accountable those who are actually milking us at our expense, because we've been suffering, and it's nothing new. We've been suffering, we've been crying out, we've been protesting, picketing. It's been going on and on. We've been saying everything that's been happening, and these corporate companies have been idly by, like, okay, yeah, whatever, let's still profit off of them. So accountability have to be set into play. And accountability is not, okay, you're giving $1 million, $5 million. Okay, you're pledging to do something for the next year, or you now adding different individuals onto your board right now. Those are just the minor things. But we're talking about a systemic system. Racism and white supremacy is so ingrained into the culture of America. It's actually been developed. America has been developed on it.
I want to real quick and just call that white extremist, because there's nothing supreme over me. I just want to put that out there.
And you know what? I agree. You know, absolutely. And that systematic way of that system have a lot of people benefiting off of that, and they don't want to change that. That's why they stay quiet. This is why they have been to the side, because they're benefiting and they're living in their bubble at our expense. So we have to shift the tides on that. And we have the power to shift the tides on that. And it requires us to be a little bit more informed as to how we can do this step by step, be informed as to where our powers are, be informed as to who our allies are.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, going after those who have been utilizing us at our expense and holding them accountable and putting pressure where pressure needs to be. And so the campaign highlight these practical steps that lead into a second phase of it, which goes into the economic empowerment plan, where that actually is where the rubber meets the road in creating an economic ecosystem within our community that's sustainable.
So by campaign, do you mean a promotional campaign that really sort of highlights the stats and everything? Like, what are the technical implementations? What we're going to see from the fund? And then also, how are you planning for brands to participate? So for instance, there's an option, there are different apps. So we're on Shopify, right? And on Shopify, you can install apps to do roundup, to where customers can round up their purchase, and then that money can be donated to an organization. So are you looking to do some of that? So get into some of the specifics about how you're implementing it and then how we can support it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Now, it trickles down to creating real actionable programs that makes change, which requires a commitment. So we have what's called the economic empowerment projects. And these projects are specifically designed to create a solution around a particular problem in our community. For example, you have youth education and training that needs to happen. We need therapy and counseling. We need financial literacy. We need family development, and there, health and wellness. And then there's a few more different categories. So what we do is create a project around one of these here elements. I'll give an example of one of the first rollouts that we're getting ready to do. There's we have a lot of issues in our, and I mean issues as far as mental and anxiety. You're talking about a lot of emotional strains that we're experiencing, whether we think that we're sane or not. We're all experiencing these things. And so we're rolling out a therapy program that allows, and this is actually being put together by a conglomerate of therapists and clinicians, psychotherapists, and so forth, that's designed to create programs that are affordable and also a lot of free solutions that can benefit the community to take, to get therapy and popularize and make therapy known that it's not necessarily a taboo thing. It's something that successful people do so that they don't go crazy and to process things. So we need these different aspects. So that is a sustainable project because it actually generates revenue and it also helps the community out. Now, we'll have something that we're going to be launching soon that actually is more on a referral base that actually provides support for businesses. We're doing it anyway. We actually are saying, hey, this business is offering this, they got something good, and third-party recognition is how we trust one another. So, Mike, if you tell me that they got some good food over here at this spot, I'm going there. Toy, you tell me that they got some great clothing over here, I'm going to go there. That referral system, we have a unique program that we're going to be rolling out soon that actually rewards the person for that referral, which generates revenue to that individual and also supports the community. Mm-hmm. These types of and there's a number of other different ones. And so what we do
great examples.
Oh, thank you. So what we do is create practical solutions that has a broad reach in helping the local business and at the same time the individuals in the community simultaneously to come up and create new habits, because we have to create new habits within our community in order to create, you know, generational wealth, in order to create legacy, in order to create long-term solutions that's going to be able to support the community and our youth that's coming up so they can have something. We have to create new habits right now. And so for us to create those new habits, we have to take, you know, real strategic approaches and aggressive approaches. And we have to make a commitment as businesses within the community to be able to give back, make room in what we do, to work with one another, because there's power in working interdependently. And that's one thing that we have to really learn how to do. And once we are able to do that, and this program offers a means and a way to do that, and it rewards you for that, habits, and those new habits allow us to establish change.
I want to find a way to make you a part of the fund we're putting together, and with that amazing question that Toya gave you, because one of the things we're doing is continuation of our fraternity brother and a good friend, Joey Womack. We're continuing a platform called Founders Therapy, where we actually bring founders to sit down, almost go through like what you would see in AA, but having an actual therapist and a psychiatric evaluation there to actually help them work through some of these problems. And our goal is to be able to show that, hey, with the therapy and with these sessions and having people they can lean on, that they know, hey, I'm not the only one going through this. We actually see an increase of their production, increase of revenue, increase of their services, because they're able to think more clearly and they have more of a resource. So I definitely would want people to understand, to not make light of mental wellness, because, you know, I remember having to take the time, even now, you know, like Saturday, I call my Saturdays or Z Club days, where I'll just either wash my car, do something with my car, but I put down my work phone and step away from business and do something that's totally for me, that I totally enjoy, just to clear my head and just to reset, non-work related. And it's not even mandatory. It's just something to do, something I enjoy, because I love cars. And so I think what you're saying is important. It sends goosebumps for me, because what you've done is so aligned with the things we've been talking about, but so different that it's perfect for collaboration versus any form of, oh, we're competing. And I think that's what people have to understand, because you start building these things. The biggest problem I see with people is it's actually harder. And I've learned this, especially with certain companies, maybe not with foundations, but definitely with companies. It's harder to ask for $150,000 than it is to ask for 10 million. And if you ask for 10 million and they know that 10 million is going to 5 organizations, they feel even better, because what they don't want to have is point of contacts with 5 different organizations, but they do want to have a point of contact with one organization to take credit for working with 5 organizations. So I think that's the other thing. People have to be strategic. You got to be strategic with ask. It was harder for me to raise. I couldn't get $250,000 for a microbrewery, but I was able to get $10 million for a microbrewery hotel. So sometimes if you dream too small, people will treat you that way. But if you go above and beyond of what they can even imagine, and people adapt to that. And I think maybe this is my someone needs to hear this kind of thing, but quit minimizing your dream. Let people sector off what part of your dream you want to put together, because Edwin, I'm assuming this document becomes public, or this document is turned into an active website so people can actually follow this. But if people are able to see your plan, this is well thought out. It's well executed, measurable results, good KPIs, structure of mental wellness, shows how it expands within its ecosystem, giving you a opportunity to either join the project or make a contribution to the project. But it's so well thought out and it's so deliberate. But I think that comes from also thinking like an entrepreneur, because you're still thinking, if it's not a profit of cash, it's the profit of impact. And I think some people need to realize that's how us impactful entrepreneurs think. Every time it's not always about the dollars. It's just if we know how the dollars will make a change. And I think you've done a beautiful job with that. And I don't see how we don't. I know me and you had already talked about working together. When you had just started writing it, you said, let me finish it, you finish yours, and we'll see how they work. I can tell you, since you've shown your cards, they work. What I want to do, though, is probably I need to restructure mine and get you as one of the 5 companies that I want to see getting $350,000. Because another thing is, I'm tired of people wanting us to fix our communities and say, oh, we want to help you fix your community, but can you do it for free? No, because one thing you said that I think should happen, if you got a $500 million budget to target us, give 20% of that budget to help us. So let's take a hundred. You got 500 million. Give us 100 million to put into programming and to put into something to actually start fixing the community and make the community better, so we can show you even more results. Because now they got even more money and they respect you because you actually care about us. Quit just trying to make money and profit off of us. You had that for 165 years. You had that with slavery. You profited. You profited for free. At this point, pay for the pain and suffering. And I think this is, for entrepreneurs, these are the reparations we want. Don't just cut us a check. Just give us a fucking opportunity. I don't need a check as much as I need an opportunity. I'll earn my money, but it's going to come one or two ways. Either change your procurement, change your funding to actually support Black people, or donate because you don't want to see us make the money. Because I know you don't doubt our skills. We've shown the skills, but you're going to have to give it to us one or two ways. Either through a check because we work for it, or either through a donation because you're scared to see how talented we are. But you're going to have to pick one of the struggles. So Edwin, and I know someone needed to hear this, and I definitely know it's a corporate company that we're going to cut that last piece up and we just going to put that on repeat for y'all because we tired of saying this shit. Edwin, I just want to thank you for coming out.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really, I appreciate you.
I want to invite you back. I want to invite you back for 1, for the collaboration, 2, for the update, 3, for any support that we can offer you, because this is a program, I think no matter how we're affiliated, we need to push it, because, Toya is doing her thing with health and beauty, beauty and wellness, should I say, but there's so many components that you have where we just got to bring us entrepreneurs together. And, I love certain people, but we gotta rethink the Chamber of Commerce mindset. We gotta rethink these old school collectives and do something that's just dynamic. And to me, this is that dynamic. This is one of those components of that puzzle to start coming together. And it's our time. I mean, we're getting old, so we need to do what we got to do for the next 20 years so we can pass this torch on to somebody else. But Edwin, thank you very much. LaToya, thank you for your allowing me to expose your family history and making an example out of you. But you have such an amazing story that I still want you to tell in a whole different way. I'm waiting for the documentary or the book to drop. Thank you for everybody that's watching. Please make sure you comment, like, share. We'll be doing a restream tonight at 8 o'clock. So instead of trying to tell your friends the story, just tell them to watch it again at 8 o'clock. Edwin, let all your people know you did a great interview with Tech Beats and Bytes and Digital Grass, and it'll be back on at 8. So go ahead.
That's right.
That's Toya, and this is Tech Beats and Bytes.